Hey guys, welcome to the Internal Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, Abraham Heisler, and I can't tell you the number of service-based entrepreneurs who are charging a fraction of what they're worth. Now, I've come across doctors, therapists, even lawyers who struggle to charge premium rates for their services. Now, on the surface, the reasons are usually thoughts like no one will pay that much for my service, or I want to be accessible to everyone. But while these may sound like valid concerns, they are often underpinned with deep-seated stories which run counter to success. And if these stories aren't addressed, then most likely people will struggle in business for a very long time. So check out this episode of the Internal Leverage Podcast, which is a masterclass I teach in ethically and confidently raising your rates. Check it out.
So, for anybody that has studied hypnotherapy, Nuno, I'm looking at you, or any sort of, teachings around the way the mind works, the conscious, unconscious mind, this really comes from the world of psychology and across the boards with any sort of science that works with the mind. And it's the idea that our mind could be divided into two parts, right? We have our conscious mind and we have our unconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind is the willpower, it's reason, it's logic. In neuroscience, it's related with the neocortex, specifically the prefrontal cortex. Now, what's really interesting here, though, is that it's only about 12% of our mental capacity, right? And that number, I mean, it's sort of, you can't really measure it, right? So we just sort of ascribe a number to it. 88% of what's going on in our mind is unconscious. Those are the deep associations from our past. Those are predominantly a lot of conditioning that happens that goes on between the ages of 0 through 7. Because what's going on is that our brain isn't fully formed until we're 7 years old. Then we start developing a critical filter, and there's changes that are happening in our brain that's facilitating that process. This critical filter is just that. It's the ability to be critical of the information that's coming at us. Meaning that if you tell me one thing at the age of 7, around that time, that's when a child can start questioning and thinking a bit more critically. Okay. Prior to that, any story about you, about money, about dealing with other people is all absorbed like a sponge. Okay. From our parents, from what we see on TV, from, being babysat by the aunt, whatever it is, we're just absorbing information. Now, this is crucial. All right. This is very crucial because that means that when you were very, very young, you maybe, tried to like go hang out with some people in the sandbox and an older kid kicked sand in your face and said, no, we don't want you here. You might not remember that experience, but when you go to pitch your service, right? When you go to set what your rate is going to be, there is that small child or that imprint on that mind, the unconscious mind from back in the day that says, I can't charge that because they're going to kick sand in my face, right? I can't do that. Yeah, okay, they're doing it over there. That's fine for them. They're the cool kids, but that's not for me. So I bring that up just to note that we're sort of up against a lot here, meaning that if consciously we put in our minds, well, this is the type of business that I want, right? The rates are going up in this city, and so I need to be earning this much. Without this, that's just a mathematical problem. I charge this much, I get this much clients, boom, what's the problem, right? The challenge is all of the emotions and the subconscious sabotage that goes into actually showing up and charging that amount. So the number one thing that we have to do, first and foremost, is we have to create an image consciously. Create it consciously and place it into the unconscious mind on a repetitive basis, on a daily basis, okay? This is your affirmations. This is your visualizations. This is the concept of think and grow rich, pretty much. It's the idea that you contemplate what it is that you truly want, how you see yourself, and you can create that. You listen to somebody like Tony Robbins who says, like, this guy that you see on stage in front of thousands of people who's, making millions and millions of dollars. I created this dude. I wasn't always this guy. And that's because he went through the same exact process. And every successful person goes through this process, whether consciously or unconsciously on some level. So the next piece, the next little bit that I want to get into with this training is really around that, is around how we can be diligent to replace and rewire some of the stories and the beliefs from the past with stories and beliefs of what is going to serve us in doing and having what it is that we want. That's really at the foundation of all mindset work. And this is neuroplasticity. And I didn't say so much about myself, but I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs in various different coaching organizations as a mindset coach, helping people build 6- and 7-figure businesses. And I also studied neuroscience for business at MIT. So, and the last thing is, for 20 years, I've traveled with monks. I've traveled to all over the world studying the mind-body connection. So just to give you a little bit more context of where this is all coming from. All right, so we don't have a lot of time, so let's keep it moving. So this is important. Now, I want to give you guys a system for being able to look at what it is that you charge from a different lens, a different standpoint. And just to wrap this up, I know I'm bouncing back and forth. Just to wrap this up, if we're undercharging, what's going on is that we have something in our unconscious mind that's creating that, right? Either it's this sense that we're not worth it, or this inability to see our worth. And I just stepped off a call with a client of mine who's a multiple 7-figure entrepreneur, and she's been, working on her business for decades. And even she still struggles to see how incredible her journey is and everything that she's created. I mean, intellectually, she gets it. In her conscious mind, yeah, it makes total sense. But unconsciously, there's imprints from her past, and that's part of the work that we're doing together. Is to rewire that circuitry, okay? All right. So here is a 3-step process while my iPad freaks out. So here, this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to get a pen, or you could do this on your computer. I want you to write down everything that you've ever invested in yourself to lead to what it is that you're doing now. Okay. So this includes education. This includes books. This includes trips. I told you a little while ago that I traveled the world studying with monks. That's a lot of flights that I took, right? A lot of hotels, a lot of meals. I mean, expensive, almost like you're doing an expense sheet. And really take a look at that. Like, tally up all the books, all the trainings, everything that you've ever spent money on, all the little classes, seminars. Okay. Now, that's number one, because that's the easiest is financially, what is the number that I get? And this should take you a while. We don't have time to go through it really all today, but this is the first step. Next, within that first step is to look at the time and the energy that you've also placed in. So for instance, I spent an entire year volunteering down in Central America, again, training with the monks, living as a monk, pretty much, and devoting in a year of my life a year of my adult life that I could have spent at a job that paid me $30,000, let's say, right? Fresh out of college, I could have gotten an entry-level position. So all of that, okay, calculate that, add that up, right? What did you sacrifice is really the question. So the first step is to really look at, what is it that you sacrificed here? What is it that you invested? And what is it that you sacrificed? And let me just pull back for a second. I don't think I spelled that right. That's okay. You guys get the idea. Let me pull back for a second here and and tell you the first of three stories. Number one is this is a story I like to tell a lot, and it's of Pablo Picasso. So supposedly he was sitting in a bar doodling on a napkin, and a woman walks in and says, "That's a beautiful drawing. I'd like to purchase it. How much?" And Picasso says $50,000. Woman's jaw drops. $50,000, but it took you 5 minutes to draw. He says, "No, madam. It took me 50 years." Okay. So that story really iterates what we're talking about here. How much time did it go into you developing your craft? Okay. Now, the next thing I want you guys to take a look at is what is the cost of inaction? So if you're working in health, if you're working in relationships, working in business or finance, what is it costing your clients not to work with you, not to do this work? Right? I had an experience years ago where I had a bite on my leg. So this is back when I was a filmmaker, and I got bit on my leg, and I didn't do anything about it. I didn't have health insurance. I thought, oh, I'll just take some Benadryl. Should be right, right? As they say in Australia, should be right, mate. And a friend of mine looked at my leg, was like, I think you should do something about that, right? It kept growing and growing. I said, no, it'll be fine. What, would have cost probably like $100 to go to a clinic, see a doctor, get some antibiotics, ended up being $2,000 in hospital bills, ambulance, IV, all when I woke up one morning and I couldn't move my leg. Not only that, but of course, the sort of mental trauma of it all. So what is the cost of inaction? What is it that what is the ill fate that you are saving your clients from? What's something that's kind of interesting. I have a lot of people come to me and they say, well, Abe, okay, you're a business coach, you're a mindset coach, you work with entrepreneurs. So naturally it's like it makes sense, the return on investment. I work with you and I make all this money. But what about me? I'm a relationship coach, or I'm a health coach, or I'm doing something different. And it still applies. Okay. This thing still applies, if not more. I have a friend, a colleague who is a relationship coach who charges, and get ready because you're going to hear this correctly. She charges $36,000 a month to work with her and her partner. Okay. $36,000 a month. Now, naturally, that is cost prohibitive for some people. However, the population that she does work with, think about what happens if they don't work with her. Well, these are high net worth individuals. They're married. If they split up, that's half of their assets gone, right? Going to the other party. That's legal fees, lawyers. Okay. There's a lot that goes into that, not to mention the emotional, damage of ending a relationship and breaking up a marriage. Health. I mean, you have the example of my leg. What if you're helping people to save their life? What if the work that you're doing with them is going to keep them out of the hospital? How many hospital bills do they not have to pay? How much ambulance, how many doctors do they not have to see? So that number, you want to total that up. You want to tally it up. Same thing for business coaching or consulting or whatever it is that you're doing. If you're helping them to avoid bankruptcy, to avoid spending tons of money on what they're doing, whatever it is, right? What are you helping them to save, and what are you helping them to gain? All right, so that's the second point. And let's move down to the third step in this three-step process. So we have how much we've invested in ourselves. We have how much we've sacrificed. We have the cost of inaction on part of the people that we are working with, our clients. Now, I want you to total it up. You're going to total it up, and you're going to ask, is this worth it? Is my rate that I come up with, that I that I really intellectually, rationally, my conscious mind can add up the numbers and see, but more importantly, emotionally, I feel in myself like this is what I'm worth. Because here's the actual truth. There's people that are willing to pay whatever it is that you feel that, I mean, I'm talking about really feel. I'm not talking about like some whimsical, oh, yeah, I'm just going to charge $1 million a minute to work with me and then manifest that sitting on my couch. No, that's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about what you feel in your bones. Some advice that a mentor gave me when I first launched my business, he said, look, your job is to help people to grow, right? Which means that you're taking them to the edge of their comfort zone. Okay. And any good salesperson or service delivery person is going to do that for their clients. You're going to help your clients grow by holding them at the edge of their comfort zone. But here's the thing, you can only take somebody as far as you're willing to go yourself. So if you're not charging something that brings you to the edge of your comfort zone, then you're undervaluing yourself and you're doing a disservice to the client. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people who undercharge or they do things for free, expecting to get business in return, or they barter, right? I mean, I've done bartering and it's totally cool. It just depends. If all you do is barter, that's not a business. And here's the thing, when you undercharge, if you're like, oh, I really want to be charging this, but this is what I think people can pay. And this is what's safe, right? There's always going to be a little bit of resentment. You're going to show up to those calls. You're going to show up. You're going to do the work, but you're not going to do it on fire, as sharp as you possibly can be. I know because I've experienced this myself and I've walked other people through this process as well. So what you charge, this number that goes here, needs to be commensurate with your deepest desire, what you truly feel, beyond the stories, beyond the scripts of the unconscious mind that tell you nobody's going to buy it. That's too expensive. Who do you think you are, right? Just like take a second, let's slow down here and let's just, what comes to mind for you? You don't have to put it in the chat. You can if you want. But what are some of the stories that go into your mind when you come up with this number? What is that inner critic, that little Woody Allen that everybody has in the back of their brain? What does it say when you say, I'm going to charge this, right? There's a part of you that's like, fuck yes. And there's a part of you that's like, whoa, you can't charge that because, right? What is that sentence? We have to be aware of these sentences. We have to make what's unconscious conscious. Otherwise, it's going to continue to control the results in our business. We're going to call it fate. That's what Carl Jung, the psychologist, said. Okay, so we have this 3-step process. We have this conscious, unconscious mind. And we just covered the final point that I was making, is that when we charge a rate that's really on fire with us, right? The head, the heart, the body, the spirit, everything. That is the deepest, highest service that we can give. Another story from when I was 6 years old. I grew up in New York City. If you grow up in New York City, you don't know how to play basketball, like you're lower than low. All right. So I told a friend of mine, I said, look, you know how to play basketball. I don't. Teach me. He said, give me $20. I was 6 years old. Like, where am I going to get $20? So I sold all my comic books, right? I saved allowance. I stopped buying bubblegum I went on a bubblegum fast for a month. And I finally got like a $20 bill. Maybe I was like 8 or 9. And I went to this kid. I was like, okay, here's the money. So what he did is he jumped up, and in New York City, we have scaffolding on the buildings when they're doing repairs. And so he jumped up and grabbed this scaffolding and he placed the $20 bill on top of the scaffold. And he jumped down. He said, you want your money back? It's time to jump. Right? So the reason why I bring up that story is because when I invested in my coach, now remember, I was earning about $30,000, $35,000 a year at the time. My coach's first program, her 8-week program, was $24,000. Her year long was 100,000, something like that. Now, I was a yes to the program for a couple of reasons. One, inspiration. I was a hell yes. Like I just knew that I was ready to play a bigger game. Okay. And not only that, but also desperation. I was tired of being stuck. So I invested in myself, and I invested at that very high level. And you have to understand that for months I woke up in the middle of the night. You can ask my wife. She was there. She'll tell you. For months I was waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats. Like, how am I going to pay for this? What am I going to do? I gotta move my ass here, right? Because I kept trying to jump up to get that $20 bill. So this sort of concept of creating a container that's a premium quality product. It's this idea that it's like the only way in which money works for us in a way, right? Because it motivates us and it gives us this container to work in a way that actually gets us the results, right? It actually gets us the change that's necessary, whether it's a financial offer, a relationship offer, or a health offer, right? This is my funky little health sign. What lies at the heart of all of that is change, or better even said, transformation. Okay. There needs to be some transformation, whether it's in business, in your relationship with money, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with health. There needs to be some sort of transformation. But here's the thing, transformation only occurs with commitment. So, how can you charge in such a way that only the committed clients show up? Because your rate is your filter. By saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I charge, you're turning away everybody that's not serious. Okay. And what I started noticing is that when I jumped my rates from 80 to 4,000, that's when people actually did the work. People showed up, because the more you pay attention. So there's a lot more I can say. I think the only other sort of piece here, I had 3 stories I wanted to share with you. We shared the first one, which is Pablo, and I shared a bunch of others, but let me share one more. This also comes from the art world, and this is the artist Banksy. So the story is that, and this actually happened. Pablo, I don't know. Pablo Picasso, I don't know if that happened or not, but it's a great story nonetheless. The Banksy story is that Banksy, the famous artist, took a few of his art pieces, artworks, right? And placed them in the middle of Central Park City. New York City, Central Park, and lined them up, next to some old looking dude, and basically undervalued the paintings. And, these are like $100, $200, $500,000 paintings, right? And he was charging maybe $20, $40, $50 for the paintings. So what happened? People walked right past. Okay. Perceived value. A few people stopped, 1 or 2, and said, I kind of like this thing, $20, no problem. Little did they know that they were, I don't know, 2000x, 100, whatever x, they were getting a lot on their investment, right? But it goes to show that this idea of perceived value, right? This story of this thing is valuable and this thing is not valuable. This unconscious thing that happens that plays out in our mind. When we respect ourselves, you see, we're the number one leading authority on how people should treat us or interact with us. We tell people, when the moment we walk out the door, we're communicating to the rest of the world, this is who I am, this is how I want you to treat me. And so when we value ourselves, when we do this work that I told you about, right, the 3-step process, when we do that and we can come to a place of confidence and clarity, and this is what I charge and it's a premium offer, we actually convey that and people pick it up. The right people, they pick it up. It's a bit like going into a massage parlor and you're just like, you have knots and aches all over your back. You just really want a really good massage, not like a lukewarm shower. You guys know what I'm talking about? You want like a good massage, a good shower, right? And money is not an issue. You're just like, I got a budget. I'm going to spend whatever it takes. I want a good massage. You walk into the massage parlor. On the left, you see somebody who does massages for $20 an hour. And on the right, you see somebody $240 an hour. Which one do you think is going to be the better masseuse or massage therapist? Okay. Now you have no idea. You didn't ask for credentials and diplomas and this or that, whatever. But this one on the right definitely takes him or herself more seriously. They respect the time, the effort. They've gone through this process on some level.